Okay, so picture this. You've got two totally separate financial universes. On one side, you have the world we all know, the one built on centuries of history. It's stable, it's regulated, but let's be honest, it can be super slow and kind of hard to get into. Then, on the other side, you have this wild new digital frontier. It's all about innovation, moving at lightning speed, but it's also famous for being incredibly volatile and, well, risky. For the longest time, these two worlds have just run side by side, never really meeting. But what if? What if we could actually build a bridge to connect them?
And that's the exact question we're going to dig into today. I mean, how do you take the best parts of both of those worlds? Well, that question leads us straight to a project called Ondo Finance. See, they're not just thinking about it, they're actually out there building the answer. So let's dive in and see exactly how they're pulling it off.
All right, first things first. Before we can really get into the solution, we've got to understand the problem. We need to take a good look at this huge gap, this chasm that separates traditional finance from the new world of crypto. So on one hand, you've got what we call TradFi, traditional finance. Think big banks, government bonds, the stock market. It's the bedrock of the whole global economy, right? It's stable, it has all these regulatory guardrails, but it's also kind of a walled garden, tough for many to access. Then, on the flip side, you have DeFi, Decentralized Finance. It's super innovative, it's open for pretty much anyone, and it offers some incredible new possibilities. But, and it's a big but, the trade-off is just wild volatility and a whole lot of risk. So here's the core issue. TradFi has all this stability, but it's locked up. And DeFi has all this open access, but it comes with a serious dose of danger.
So, how in the world do you build that bridge? Well, the building blocks are something called real-world assets, or for short, RWAs. Now, this is the key concept to grasp. An RWA is really just a digital token living on a blockchain that represents your ownership of a real, tangible asset from the traditional world. It's almost like a digital title deed for, say, a government bond or even a piece of real estate. The game-changing part? This digital deed can be traded instantly, 24/7, anywhere on the planet, without having to go through a bank or a broker. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so now that we've got a handle on what RWAs are, let's talk about a very specific problem inside the crypto world that they can help solve. And that's the constant, kind of risky search for reliable returns.
You've probably heard about earning a return or yield in DeFi. And yeah, it can be incredibly profitable, but a lot of the time it feels like a house of cards. See, those high returns usually come from really complex, crypto-only activities, like lending or trading. This means they're super volatile and 100% dependent on whether the crypto market is up or down. It's a totally closed loop, and if one piece of that loop breaks, the whole thing can just come crashing down. So there's this massive need for something, well, more stable. And this, right here, is where Ondo's strategy just clicks into place. They're taking those RWA building blocks we talked about and using them to build a really sturdy, really stable bridge for that DeFi yield.
And you know what? The way they do it is surprisingly simple. It's basically a three-step process. Okay, step one, they take investor money and go buy a super secure, high-quality traditional asset. Think something like a US Treasury bill. Step two, they create a digital token on the blockchain that legally proves you own a piece of that Treasury bill. And then, step three, that token gets offered to users. And just like that, you're earning the stable, predictable yield that comes from the US government, but you're doing it with all the speed and efficiency of a digital asset. Pretty cool, right?
And get this, they didn't just start with any old asset. Ondo was one of the absolute pioneers in tokenizing US Treasuries. We're talking about one of the safest financial instruments on the entire planet. This was never about chasing hype. For them, it was all about building a foundation on rock-solid stability.
And that really gets to the heart of their whole strategy. Everything they do is built around a huge focus on regulatory compliance, which in this space is absolutely essential. The yield you get isn't some kind of magical crypto internet money, it's coming directly from the world of traditional finance. This cuts down the risk massively compared to those pure crypto models, and it creates a safe, productive place for digital dollars, stablecoins, to be put to work.
Okay, so we've got this bridge, right? It's built on a solid foundation of real-world assets, and it's got a big focus on compliance. The big question is, who's actually crossing it?
Well, because of that intense focus on rules and stability, Ondo has become this perfect gateway for the big money players. We're talking institutional investors. These are the huge financial firms that manage trillions of dollars but have been, pretty nervous about jumping into the wild world of DeFi. Ondo basically gives them a compliant, safe on-ramp to finally bring all that capital into the digital economy.
But it's not just about the products they offer themselves. Ondo is also becoming a kind of foundational layer for other projects. They're offering up their tokenization tech as a service to other DeFi protocols and organizations. So think about it this way. They're not just building one bridge, they're handing out the blueprints and the tools for lots of other people to build their own.
And you better believe the market has noticed. Ondo has raised a ton of capital from some of the most respected venture capital funds out there, from both the old-school finance world and the new Web3 space. That's a massive vote of confidence. It basically shows that the smart money from both sides of the chasm believes in this vision of a connected financial future.
Now, the whole ecosystem is tied together with the Ondo token, and it's not just for speculation, it's what's called a governance token. What that means is, if you hold a token, you get to vote on the future of the whole platform. We're talking big decisions, like which new real-world asset should be brought on board, or how the fees should be structured. It really gives the community a direct say in where things are headed, which helps align everyone's interests for the long haul.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the really big picture here. What does all of this mean for the future of finance? What does the world even look like from the other side of this bridge they're building?
This quote really puts the sheer scale of this opportunity into perspective. The whole movement to tokenize real-world assets, this isn't some small niche thing. A lot of smart people believe this is the next massive wave in finance. We're talking about the potential to unlock trillions, with a T, trillions of dollars of value by bringing global assets on-chain, making everything more efficient, more accessible, and way more transparent.
And because Ondo was a first mover and so focused on doing things by the book, they've managed to position themselves right at the epicenter of this massive trend. They are literally building the foundational rails for a new tokenized economy. And that's really why this matters so much. This is about the basic infrastructure for what finance itself could look like tomorrow.
Which leaves us with one final and pretty fascinating question to chew on. I mean, if you can tokenize a US Treasury bond today, what about tomorrow? What about your house? A famous piece of art? A share in your local coffee shop? We could be watching the very, very early days of a world where every single asset has a digital, easily tradable version on a blockchain. So, will every asset one day have a token? That is something to think about.